Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this morning's live session. I am Kay Wilson. Hi there. I see Facebook user. I don't see a name, but thanks for joining. Glad to have you. Um, and I see some folks joining on Instagram as well. Hi everyone. All right, so today is our usual live training session on everything as it pertains to immigration as per usual. And so if you're looking to migrate to Canada, study in Canada, or visit Canada, or if you're already in Canada and your goal is to change your status or remain permanently, then I can definitely say that you're at the right place. And thank you so much for joining today. As you pop in, let me know where in the world you're joining me from today. I'm coming to you from Regina, Saskatchewan, in Canada. Let me know where you're joining me from in the chat. I see a lot of people joining, hopping on. I'll give you guys a few minutes to come on in before I dive right in. Okay, I see Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Nigeria. Welcome, guys. I see Dominican Republic. Awesome. From all over the world, all over the Caribbean, parts of Africa. Awesome, guys. All right, so today I'm going to be looking at fairly recent news item. So yesterday, the government of Canada announced that they are finished issuing invitations to apply for those that are looking to sponsor their parents and grandparents, right? So this is, you can call it a lottery system, where every year those who are permanent residents or Canadian citizens have the opportunity to submit their information with the hope of being selected to apply for permanent residence for their parents. So applying to sponsor their parents rather, right? So they do this about annually, and the number of applications that they accept each year, it changes. So this year they were accepting a record number, so up to 30,000 applications were being accepted under the parents and grandparents program this year. So this is the largest single intake that they've ever had for the program. And the only difference between this year is that this year's program and how they've done it in the past is the fact that the draw, there was no draw. There was no draw in 2021, unfortunately. So what they did was to select from the candidates that express their interest. So there's usually an expression of interest period where you submit a form. So there's an interest to sponsor form that the applicant or the sponsor would have to complete. And there is usually a period that the government gives during which you would submit your interest to sponsor. And then based on that, you may or may not be selected. So if you are selected, then when they are doing the selection process, which they did in the last 2 weeks. So they did that over the last 2 weeks, and they were only selecting from the batch of candidates that expressed their interest back in 2020, right? So there was no new expression of interest form created for 2021, right? So those who want to sponsor their parents in 2021 will have to wait, or the alternative is to apply for what's called a super visa. So a super visa is a temporary resident visa. The only difference being that you will need to have additional requirements met in order to apply for this visa, right, for your parents. And it's called a super visa because it acts similarly to that of a temporary resident visa, regular TRV. However, it allows the parent to remain in Canada for up to 2 years in one stay. So they can remain in Canada and they don't have to be applying for an extension of their stay or anything like that. So that's one of the benefits of applying for this. If you are not able to sponsor your parents right away, or if you express your interest and you weren't selected, or if you don't meet the requirements to sponsor, because there are requirements to sponsor. So those who were in that batch, you would have received an email sometime within the last 2 weeks. So like I said, they announced that they finished sending out invitations just yesterday. So you will have to check your email, check the email that you used to sign up back in 2020. And you should see an invitation there if you were selected, right? So if you do not have access to the email, or if you lost your confirmation number, you have an option. So there will be a form on the IRCC's website. They should be releasing that this week. And you will be able to use that form to find your confirmation number, or to find out if you were among those that were selected, right? And so if you're selected, you would get a communication from them congratulating you. And it will also tell you the deadline by which you need to submit a formal application. So this application must be submitted within 60 days, right? So they have 60 days to apply for permanent residence, right? So how does something like this work, right? So if you have been selected, congratulations. Like I said, it's a lottery system. So if you are selected, that is definitely a blessing. And make use of the opportunity, submit your application on time. And of course, you want to submit a complete application, because it's one thing to be selected, and then it's another thing to submit a complete and correct application, right? So if your application is not complete, it's not correct, it has errors, the forms aren't filled out properly, you don't show how you meet the eligibility requirements. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong with these PR applications. So you have to ensure that it's done properly. So it's one thing to be selected, but the next thing, of course, is to submit a good application. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you need to look out for when you are applying, when you're submitting the application, some of the eligibility requirements that you need to meet. All right. So the application is done in two parts. The application is done in two parts. So for one, you must apply. So as a sponsor, so that is the person in Canada, the permanent resident or the Canadian citizen that is sponsoring their parents or grandparents, you must apply to become a sponsor and be approved, right? And let me know in the comments if any of you here who are watching me, joining me live, and even those who are watching the replay, #replay, let me know if any of you have been selected, or if you know somebody who has been selected in this draw, or if you're hoping to sponsor your parents or apply for a super visa. Let me know what's your status where this is concerned. And then also, if you have questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try to get to your questions. All right, so it's a two-part application, right? So first, you must apply to become a sponsor and be approved, right? And then the second part is your parents must apply for permanent residence. So it's two parts. However, the two parts of the process, the two parts of the application will be submitted at the same time. So even though they're assessed separately, so first, IRCC will, firstly, the application goes through what's called a completeness check, right? They will be checking that the application is complete. If not, it will be sent back to you, right? And the other part is they will then assess the sponsor. So once your application has been deemed good, it's complete, they will assess the sponsor. So they're assessing the sponsor for eligibility. Of course, you must be eligible to apply, right? And then the second part, once the sponsor is approved, so once you've passed all of those tests, then they will move on to the permanent residence part for the parents. Usually it's at this part that the application is sent to the visa office that services your country. of residence. So wherever the parents are applying from and residing, that is where wherever they are from. So they will send the application to the visa office at that time. So you will receive a communication at some point on the first part of the application. That is whether you have met the requirements to sponsor, you've been approved as a sponsor, and then they will communicate that to you. And then they will also tell you when your application is being transferred to the visa office, usually, right? So those are the two parts. And then in terms of eligibility, right? These are the eligibility requirements to consider. And remember, when you're applying, and this goes for not just parents and grandparent sponsorship, but for all PR programs, it's all about eligibility. So before applying, don't waste time and completing and interest to sponsor form if you don't think you qualify. If you don't qualify, then don't apply. Okay, it's just gonna waste your time and the IRCC's time, and you'll be taking up a spot, right? Remember, this is a lottery system. They only have a limited number of spots, right? So if you are not eligible and you still submit an interest to sponsor, you are selected, and then it doesn't work out, or you know that you're not eligible, then that means that's a spot that somebody else who is eligible could get, right? There's a ton of people who want to sponsor their parents, right? You're coming to Canada, you may have left your family behind, and you want to get your parents here. Some people may need their parents for support, for childcare, stuff like that. So that's something to be mindful of. You want to ensure that you meet the eligibility requirements before you apply, right? So this should have been done from the get-go before you express your interest. All right, so you can sponsor your parents, and you can have a co-signer, right? So your co-signer can be your spouse or your common law partner. So they can co-sign the application in order for you to meet. So if you're having difficulty meeting the income requirements, because with all these sponsorship applications, there's an income requirement that must be met, right? So in order to meet the income requirements, you can combine your income with that of your common law partner or your spouse, and they must also sign the sponsorship undertaking, right? And then so income must be proved by using proof of income directly from the CRA. So the CRA is the Canada Revenue Agency, and you would have been filing your taxes. So that's the expectation. So they verify your income by what you file on your tax return. So it's not even what you submit in an employment letter. Like the weight is on what your net income is on your tax return, right? So they will be taking your income for the last 3 years, and then your income must be enough to cover your family size, right? So that's what they'll also be looking at. So your family size over the past 3 years, immediately prior to the time that you would have applied to sponsor. Okay. So if we're in 2021, then we're going back to 3 tax years. So we would not have filed a tax return for 2021 just yet. So we will be looking at 2020, 2019, 2018, right? So those 3 tax years is what they will be looking at for the income part of it. And what they're doing for this year, for the 2021 intake, they're allowing sponsors and co-signers, if you have a co-signer on your application, to count regular insurance benefits in your income calculation. I think this is really good, because a lot of people may have been out of a job at some point, whether this year or last year, because of COVID-19. There was, a lot of lockdown. So a lot of companies were shut down. People couldn't work. And a lot of people may have been getting employment insurance benefits. So if you're in Canada and you lost your job or you lost your income as a result of COVID-19, you may have been eligible for what they call the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or the CERB. So this was a payment that was issued to a lot of people during 2020 and for this year as well. So some people would have been getting this benefit, which is basically a replacement of the income that you would have lost. So, for those who are outside of Canada, these are some of the benefits that permanent residents and Canadian citizens enjoy. Um, there was a lot of government relief that was being provided to both individuals and companies as well during the pandemic, and some of these benefits still continues today. So the ones who would have been getting these benefits, and you're in, because normally when you're applying to sponsor, right, just a little background, um, you cannot be getting social assistance, right? So if the person is on social assistance for any reason other than a disability, generally that's going to be something that works against you if you want to sponsor someone, right? Because the government wants to know that when this person comes, you are able to take care of them. Because when you're sponsoring, whether a parent, a grandparent, a child, a spouse, it's a sponsorship undertaking. You're signing a declaration that you will be responsible for this person. Um, and the undertaking, the length of the undertaking varies by person, right? So for a parent and grandparent, the undertaking length is 20 years. So when they come to Canada, the declaration that you sign at the time of applying is that you will be responsible for them for 20 years, right? So they can work, of course, obviously, depending on your parents' age. They are able to work. They're able to access certain benefits like GST and stuff like that. So some people, if they're in a lower income bracket, you may get, once you file your taxes and you qualify, you will automatically get these GST payments. You'll just see a check appear, and you're wondering what this check was for. So outside of that, though, if they are on social assistance, that is where you would have to repay those funds if you want to sponsor again, right? So, and then there is a sponsorship undertaking length. It's shorter for the dependent child. So the dependent child is usually up until 25, typically, or the spouse is also a shorter period of undertaking, right? But for the parents, of course, they make it a long term. It's your parents. um, so for those who are on not social assistance still does not make you eligible. But if you received money from the um, like Service Canada benefits as a result of COVID-19, so employment insurance, other than special employment insurance benefit, because you may get special insurance, employment insurance benefits for example, if you're on maternity leave. Like here in Canada, the maternity benefits are really good. So you are able to go on maternity leave for either 12 months or 18 months, depending on your choosing. Whether you're doing 12 or 18 months will impact the amount of payments that you get each month, right? So there is a payment of employment insurance benefits that you may be eligible for when you're on maternity leave. So that does not make you ineligible. You can definitely count those as part of your income. And so too with the CERB or the COVID-19 benefit payments. I think a lot of people were getting like $2,000 a month or something like that. So you can certainly count that as part of your income. All right. So those are some of the considerations for income. If you sponsored in the past, so if you sponsored family members in the past and they received social assistance while the sponsorship undertaking was still valid. So remember, I said there is a sponsorship undertaking, and the length will depend on the sponsorship, right? For parents, it's 20 years. For spouses and children, it's way less than that. So you can sponsor until you have repaid any social assistance that they would have gotten, right? While the sponsorship undertaking was still in existence. If you have an immigration loan that you have missed payments for, then you have to pay that in order to sponsor. So they're doing these checks, right? So remember, these are eligibility requirements. So when you submit an application as a sponsor, these are some of the checks that the visa officer, the immigration officer will be doing on your application, right? So that is why you have to be very careful with your application. Don't waste your invitation, right? And if I should also insert, if it's a case where you're not sure, get professional help, right? Reach out to us if you need help. We'll be more than happy to assist you. We do have a number of parent sponsorship applications that we are processing right now. And based on the questions that I've been getting, this is why I said, well, we're just going to tackle this topic today, right? Because if my clients are having these questions, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have the same questions. All right. And then another thing that you have to consider is if you have child support or spousal support payments to make. If you have these obligations, you can't sponsor your family until you make these payments. So if you have child support or spousal support payments and you have missed any of these payments, you have to get current in order to apply. Likewise, if you're on social insurance, um, social benefits rather, you must have come off of getting social assistance and show that you're no longer, accepting social assistance payments in order to be eligible. And then you must not have a sponsorship bar against you. Some people may have a sponsorship bar for different reasons. Some of it might be like for violent crimes or for various reasons. So you must have not had a sponsorship bar against you. If you do, that will have to be taken care of before you can apply. Okay. And then there is the last thing I wanted to mention was the biometrics, right? So you will, if you haven't given a biometrics before, but you will receive, firstly, you must pay your biometrics fee upfront. So when you're doing your application, you'll pay the fees upfront and submit that as part of your application, right? But you must don't go to Service Canada or the BAC and attempt to do or give biometrics information unless and until you receive a letter from the IRCC to give your biometrics. All right. So you will not be given biometrics until you have been instructed to do so. However, when you're submitting your application, you must pay that upfront. All right. So those are some of the key things I wanted to mention as it relates to parent sponsorship. Like I mentioned before, if you have been selected to apply for your parents, apply to sponsor, congratulations. It's a big deal. These, as you can see, these invitations don't come too often, once per year or twice if you're lucky. And there is a ton of people who are expressing their interest. So if you are among the 30,000, in previous year it was 10,000, and before that it was like 5,000, right? So this is a big draw. So if you are in this number, then congratulations. And absolutely, like I mentioned, reach out to us if you need professional help with preparing and submitting your sponsorship application package. It is very important that the application is done right and that your application is not refused or sent back. So you would have lost that opportunity and you may or may not get another chance to sponsor, right? So be mindful of that. You can email us at info@mccanadaimmigration.com. Send us a message for those who are on Instagram. Send us a DM, or if you're on Facebook, send us an email or go on our website, nccanadaimmigration.com, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. And as I mentioned in previous videos, we usually start off with a consultation. So typically, some of you may know, I do not start my sessions. I do not take on clients without a consultation. So I always start off with a consultation so I can better assist you. All right. All right, guys, thank you so much. And before I go, see if there's any questions here. So I see one that says, do they actually contact the bank to verify the amount in it? Also, what happens if I can't really see this too clearly? Okay, so you're asking about a study permit. That's a totally different topic. You're asking for a study permit. If you're submitting a study permit application, yes, they do check. They do check whichever application it is that you're submitting, and if you're submitting documents for income and so on. And that is why the processing times for different countries vary, because it's about their ability to access and to verify independently the information that you are submitting. So I would see, some countries where it takes 6 to 8 months to get a study permit, while some countries, like in Jamaica, it doesn't take too long because of the access to information, right? In other countries, it takes a long time because, like, for example, in Nigeria, where they have the Nigerian Student Express, they are now asking for this thing called My Bank and 12 months of bank history to go through that program. And this is because it helps them to verify the information that's being submitted a lot quicker, more quickly than through the regular methods where you just submit what you submit, and they have to do a lot more checks in order to verify the information. Because guess what, it does happen, people submit fraudulent documents all the time. It does happen, and that's why in some countries the processing times tend to be longer than others because of that, because they have to do their independent checks. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of people who have gotten procedural fairness letters because the officer has found out that they either lied or they omitted a lot of things or they misrepresented themselves in some way. They submitted fraudulent documents, in which case they will issue a 5-year ban. So they'll ban you from being able to apply to Canada, right? So you wouldn't be able to visit Canada. So yes, they do check. All right. So ensure that anything that you're submitting, and like I said, that's why I do a consultation first, because I have to be convinced that I can help you. If I cannot help you, I will tell you, believe me, right? So I only take on clients that I can help. And how do I assess whether I can help you? In that consultation session, I'll be able to ask specific questions, I'll be able to review your documents, and I will know for sure if this is something that will be successful or not. I'll know your chances of success, right? Based on that, and based on the documents that you have, right? So always be truthful and don't hide anything, right? It's better to tell them everything, tell the truth. You don't have to tell them everything, but be truthful, be upfront, and it works out better for you than if you lie and you try to hide things and they know, right? Some people are not aware that the government of Canada, the US, UK, New Zealand, there are a few countries that have what they call an information sharing agreement. So they share information. So if you have ever applied to the United States before for a visa or anything else, and then you're applying to Canada, guess what? They know, right? Because they have access to this information. So that's something to be mindful of. So if you have been there's usually a question on the forms. There's a statutory question that asks, have you ever been refused entry to Canada or any other country? And this is a question that usually trips a lot of people. If you have, just say yes. Just say yes. There's usually a place there to even explain. Be honest, right? Because if you say no, then it tells them that you're lying. And then there's that question, what else are you lying about? Right? So it really casts doubt on everything else in your application. It's better to be upfront and say yes, and then explain it, and then get professional help to prepare an explanation letter or a study plan or something that can further convince them, saying, hey, yes, this happened. but so and so and so, right? We'll be able to really use case law and use the 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 laws, use case law and the legislation here in Canada, the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, and the regulations to really support your application even further. So even if something like that did happen, right? So that's my take on that. Always be honest, be upfront, be forthcoming, and yeah, and it works out better for you. All right. So I see somebody says, I am a phlebotomist and have no family or friends in Canada, but would love to move there, and because our RN there, so can you help? Norda, go on our website. We have a free assessment. So go on our website and complete the free assessment, and then we'll be able to tell you whether or not you are a good candidate. And if you are, we would then invite you um, to do a consultation to see how we could to help you and to determine which pathway. Remember, guys, there are over 80 immigration programs, so we'll be able to advise which pathway is best for you and what are the steps that you need to take depending on that. Um, yeah, so that's that. All right, guys, I am about to sign off. But before I go, I want to make a really big announcement, an important announcement. So this at the end of this month, we will be having, I think it's on the 25th, we will be posting more information about the sessions. But on the 25th of October, we will be having an information session. We'll be touching on various topics on Canadian immigration, rather. So it's an information session or a webinar series that we'll be having from October 25th to the 29th. So stay tuned for information on how you can register and be a part of the sessions. They will be held over Zoom. We will be talking about permanent residence and different programs, how to apply. We'll be talking about studying in Canada, working in Canada, how to get a work permit, how to get a study permit, visiting Canada, and then we will close it off with a huge Q&A session where you get to ask your questions. And this will be a live interactive session. We will be posting more information about that. So just to get you all warmed up, I'm really excited about it. We will post more information later this week, and so that you guys can register. But until then, I will catch you guys next week. Have a blessed rest of your day and your week. And just keep going. Keep going. All right, guys, take care.